Hi, I'm Vince Molinari, and welcome to our show today on CNBC Africa, powered by FinTech.tv. And I'm here with my partner and co-host, Kavita Gupta, joining us from London.
Hi, Vince. Such a pleasure. I'm missing you being next to you at New York Stock Exchange.
I have an empty spot here. I need you back.
London would do. I am excited about this show today. Both the companies are super strong, super amazing, tells us the journey of how Africa is going to be the next upcoming billion-dollar market. But also I'm a little biased because Tala is one of my portfolio companies, so I've seen their journey from early on.
Well, that's great full disclosure, and what great credit to you of being an investor in Tala. And I think when we look at BitLipa, look at what's going on, the power of technology that's emerging from the continent and taking a leadership role in really engaging global communities. It's just fabulous.
Yeah, the today's show starts with how do you really bank the unbanked, but not just that, how do you create financial products to the community who has never even had an account? And then we go to Apollo Eric, who's basically talks about on and off ramp of giving this community the power of decentralized finance, Bitcoin and Ether.
Well, I think it's only the beginning, and what great leadership. Can't wait to learn some more through these episodes.
Absolutely.
My guest today is Shivani Siroya. She's the founder and CEO of Tala, a smartphone app for digital financing services. She founded the company in 2013 to offer instant credit scores to people in underrepresented markets such as Kenya, Philippines, Mexico, and India. Tala has given over $2.25 billion in credits to over 6 million customers across the globe. Prior to founding Tala, she worked for the UN Population Fund and also worked at Citi, UBS, and Credit Suisse in their investment banking. Shivani, it's a pleasure to have you on our show, The Impact at FinTech TV. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for having me on.
Shivani, it's always such a pleasure to talk to you because I've always felt like you do have Indian roots, you have African roots, but you have spent a lot of your life, most of your life in US. And still when you decided to be a founder, you decide to go back to emerging markets. Like, where did this journey start for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, it's a good question because as you described my background, I have a pretty windy career, and for me, I think the journey actually did start in terms of how I grew up and a little bit of my upbringing and realizing that, I think I was able to really understand, I think early on that, individuals are innate with potential, but are given, different access to opportunities.
Yeah. No, very well said, Shivani. And sometimes I always believe that it's one of the things women are born with, to look at the problem in a different way, and especially with empathy, and also looking at the access issue, which probably does not, and I don't want to generalize it in today's time, but doesn't come mostly with the male perspective. Shivani, why credit lending platform? Why Kenya? And I mean, I have so many, because it has been first wise, right? Why Kenya to start with? Why financial credit lending platform? And why a technology which is driven completely with the population you have to build your credibility with?
Mm-hmm. So I would say, when I worked at the UN Population Fund, I worked there for over 4 years, and I had the opportunity to work across 9 different countries, primarily in West Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa. And during that time, what I was doing was understanding, how microcredit was affecting the quality of life of individuals. So what we wanted to understand was, when you give somebody $300 or $1,000, where does the money actually go in the system? What are those micro decisions that, individuals are taking in terms of putting the capital towards home improvements, working capital, their kids' education, could we really see that they were progressing out of poverty as a result of actually having access to this capital? And so during that 4.5 years, in order to actually get the data, I ended up interviewing a little over 3,500 individuals in person. And so I would literally go to their homes in the morning, I would go to work with them, and I would actually sit in their stores and understand how many customers came in that day, how many products did they sell. At the end of the day, when they were counting their cash, I was there to understand how much they made. I would then go to the market with them and understand how did they decide how much food to buy or inventory to buy for the next day. How much went to, again, a mattress or a lockbox in terms of savings. And what I saw was an enormous amount of data and an enormous amount of potential. And when I would actually walk alongside these customers, I could see that they felt stuck, right? They were running businesses that could be successful, but they weren't able to get access to the capital that they needed to improve the business or improve their family's quality of life. And so in some ways, what happened was because I believed so much in them, I actually unconsciously started lending to them myself.
So Shivani, you were giving them you were lending them your own personal money?
I was, yeah. So I was literally using my savings to lend to these individuals because I believed so much in them. And I could see that it actually made a lot of business sense. And what ended up happening actually is a friend of mine.
Any default from your personal money when you were lending them?
A little bit, but I think it was much more that I was able to understand the daily life of these individuals. And so in that sense, I saw the volatility. And so I could see that when they couldn't make a payment, it was because of an income shock, right? I could see that something was changing in their business. And what I realized actually was that I was underwriting these individuals, but I was using their daily life data to underwrite them. And so what happened next was then really realizing, okay, where do I find this daily life data? Where does it exist? Because clearly no loan officer is going to, do the enormous amount of interviews that I had done.
Yeah.
And so I then realized that, when I made a payment, let's say I paid a utility bill or I paid my phone bill, I would actually receive a text message that confirmed the receipt of that phone bill. And I started to think about it as everybody has access to mobile phones. At this
Thanks
point,
to M-Pesa,
right?
the financial inclusivity was there, yeah.
And when we look at Android devices, now the price point has come down to almost, $20, $25. And so I also realized that the customers that I was interviewing, the underserved, did have access to technology. And so then it was that next connection point of saying, is there a way for us to gather seamlessly this kind of daily life data using mobile technology? And could we turn this kind of alternative data into a credit score? Because really what I needed to develop a credit score was capacity data to understand debt to income ratios, consistency of bill payments, and then understand behavior.
So Shivani, why Kenya?
So when I started to think about, the infrastructure that's required for financial services, and I looked around the world, Kenya is this, in some ways, like magical place where it is actually at the forefront of digital financial services and the kind of infrastructure that is required to be able to serve your customers very quickly and to reach the majority of the population. So Kenya has a national ID system. And I don't know if everyone knows this, but actually the majority of the world does not have national ID systems. Even markets like the Philippines, there are 17 different forms of identity that are accepted.
Oh, wow.
But Kenya does have a national ID system.
That's very progressive, and nobody would expect that from a country in Africa.
Yeah. In addition to that, there is a dominant mobile money system. And so you have customers that are actually digitally financially savvy already. In addition to that, microcredit group lending has existed for a long period of time in Kenya. So I also knew that these customers, already had, again, some sophistication with traditional microfinance. And so what it allowed me to do when we picked Kenya as our first market is really focus on a particular piece of the supply chain in terms of the actual data gathering, the credit scoring, and the app experience, as opposed to, as a first-time founder, having to think through, okay, how do I verify identity? How do I do KYC? How do we transact or serve the customer? How do we then collect? And so those kinds of other pieces were already existing in the market. And with one API integration, we could actually be able to get started.
Wow. Super, super fascinating putting this together. And what was going on in your mind, Shivani, at that point? Because you're a solo founder. As you just said, you learn coding, so you're not coming from technical background, and you must be investing your own capital at the earlier stage. Walk us through the journey initially when you are still building the platform, putting your own money towards being such a big VC funded company. Like, what were those starting points?
So the initial capital, after, I would say after our first prototype, so after I got started, the next part was actually, I literally applied to every business plan competition that there was, every fellowship program. And, I think, I say this to a lot of first-time founders that, venture capital is not the only way to get started. There are these avenues out there.
Who were some of your earliest supporters in this mission with respect to nonprofits or VCs? Like, how did one lead to other?
Sure. So the initial kind of investors that came in, are some of the people that have continued to support us throughout our journey. Lowercase Capital, our first investor was Chris Saka. And, he's invested in companies like Twitter, Uber, Instagram, and he really could understand the opportunity in emerging markets. And he was also, really, I think, able to understand that, there was going to be a way for us to be able to bring in this data and leverage that across lending, but also now across additional financial services.
And Shivani, the journey has been incredible. We have been part of it early on, but I have seen every time. I was recently in Kenya 2 months back, and I was full of pride when people would just talk about Tala as this company to watch out for. And you build this whole thing while delivering two babies too recently. So first, congratulations. As a women founder, and I hope we reach one day when this question and this identity doesn't even exist as a separate one, but it does today. So as a women founder, as a women of color founder, creating this product, which is not even like a SaaS product or something to be used in America, but actually for emerging markets while raising money from US. If you reflect back, how this journey has been for you as a woman?
No, I really appreciate the question, because I think in some ways, I think I chuckle a little, because I think I remember the early days of trying to raise capital. It wasn't even just as a woman, but I think your point on emerging markets, the underserved, the idea when I would explain it to investors that using just a, Android application, we can actually lend to customers that are, hundreds of miles away, thousands of miles away from us. They're like, that's not possible, right? The idea of using just mobile data and behavioral data to create a credit score and to actually get repaid. I think that there was a lot of disbelief. And, I think what I would say is that, as an entrepreneur, again, first time female, but more so, I think the markets that we serve and the customers we serve, definitely created a challenge, right? Because I think it's easier when you can touch and feel something and you can see your customers in front of you, even as an investor, right? You invest in things that you know. And I think what I did was actually just, again, I used data and I said, okay, I understand. And so even if they say no to me today, that's because they don't, again, see what I see, right? They're not seeing the data. And so it requires proof. And I didn't take it as any kind of, I don't know, criticism or anything. And I actually kind of used it to fuel me. And I actually really believe that when you go out for an investment, it's almost important to really think of it as the best learning opportunity you can have. And so I wasn't afraid to share my idea or share where we are in the journey, and be open about that, because I think it allowed me to build those relationships. And as a female founder, actually end up getting a lot of supporters along the way, even if they didn't invest in that particular round. So I think that was a big thing. And then I would say that, like you mentioned in the beginning, we have the ability to look at problems very differently. And so in that sense, like, I started to really think of the investment process almost as a product funnel, and really analyze along the way, like, where was I having these like missteps, or what wasn't resonating. And so again, if you can kind of document that and use it in that way and almost be data driven about it, I think it can be helpful and overcome maybe some of the challenges you may face.
Very fascinating. And Shivani, you guys just announced, with the digital economy and everybody talking about crypto, I saw an announcement that Tala is partnering with the Circle for their USDC payments. Tell us more about that. How is that? And is it for all the markets or just particular markets?
So we formed this really interesting collaboration recently with Visa, Circle, and also Stellar. And for us, we are looking to take this into all of our markets, because we really, again, are moving beyond credit now. And we're offering our customers the ability to deposit with Tala and save money with Tala. We're looking to help them grow their money, so actually be able to earn yield on top of their money, get better access to credit benefits, but then lastly, also use their money. So a key piece of this is, sending money like remittances, peer-to-peer, but also the ability to transact. And so when we think about these three kind of partners that we've brought in, it is really allowing our customers, hopefully, the ability to accelerate that enablement that we're trying to provide for them.
Super fascinating. It just feels like the whole crypto economy was started to be in emerging markets to basically fix that fractional payment system. And I think companies like Tala are the perfect platform to be actually used, because you have that access and that educational platform at the same time. Thank you so much, Shivani, for taking time out. I know there's so much going on in your life, so much constructive. I am really looking forward to that $1 billion valuation very soon, multiple markets, and not just Kenya. Anywhere I go across the world, I want to see Tala there and feel super proud of you and the company. Thank you.
Thank you.
From our incredible impact story, Zinzi, our contributor from Africa, is going to be talking to Apollo Eric on our digital asset.
Welcome to FinTech TV, a global media platform for digital assets and sustainable investing.
My name is Kavita Gupta.
And I'm Vince Molinari, and we are so pleased to be back at the New York Stock Exchange.
Our signature shows, the Digital Asset Report, focused on the global ecosystem of blockchain, digital assets, financial tech evolution, and The Impact, a show focused on credible social entrepreneurs, impact investors. We reach 850 million households globally. This is FinTech TV.
Welcome to FinTech TV. My name is Kiko. Today we have an exciting conversation lined up for you. Guess what? We'll be talking about just crypto. And we'll be having a special focus on digital wallets as well as the crypto exchange space. Joining us all the way in Nairobi is Apollo Eric. Apollo Eric is the CEO and the co-founder of Bitly, a digital wallet and a crypto exchange. Apollo, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Really looking forward to this interview.
Beautiful. So, Eric, just walk me through how your platform works, how the app works.
So, Bitlipa is an application that allows you to do payments and remittance in crypto and in fiat. So, if you have downloaded the application from a Play Store, what you can be able to do to fund the application is you can receive money from another user. He can send you fiat like shillings or Ugandan shillings. You can be able to receive Bitcoin. You can be able to receive ETH and USDT. Within the application as well, you can be able to exchange Kenya shillings to Bitcoin or Bitcoin to Kenya shillings. You can also be able to exchange Bitcoin to ETH, ETH to Bitcoin, or Kenya shillings to USDT, and vice versa. The other thing that you can do with the application is that you can be able to send your assets out. So you're making payments in China because you're inside import and export business, and you want to pay in Bitcoin because you don't want to incur transactional charges. I do have clients who do that. They just load using M-Pesa, they convert into Bitcoin, and then they send and it arrives the other side instantly. So you're talking about international remittance and you're talking about payment that is cross-border.
Okay, that's fantastic. So does the app only deal with Bitcoin and Ethereum and the Kenyan shilling and the US dollar? It's only limited to those four, or is it also welcome to other cryptos like the Dogecoin and so forth?
So we are building version 1.0 of the application because what's out there right now is a beta version of the application. And version 1.0 has Kenya shillings, Ugandan shillings, Tanzanian shillings, Rwandese franc. It has Ghanaian cedi. And in terms of crypto, we're talking about Bitcoin, ETH, USDT, and also we are adding Tron as well in version 1.0. It's a lot of work. That's why we are moving gradually, progressively. I must say that we started this journey in 2018, and we are still not yet there in terms of building on the technology stack.
So here's the question, Eric. Will we see a time, and maybe perhaps even on the African continent, because we've seen also African governments coming out and not throwing their weight behind the crypto world in general, not just Bitcoin. In Kenya, the central bank, for example, is one example that of how institutions, government-run institutions, are not for crypto. So do you, as a business person in this industry, do you see a time when African governments will accept, will welcome the idea of crypto?
I think it's going to come sooner than we expect because governments adopting crypto or digital currencies is a way of them surviving. If they don't, they'll completely left behind. And I'll give you an example. Education. Already private players offer best education than government. Already we have private institutions that offer better health services than the government. So money is just one of those domains that the government still has a lot of monopoly, but it's going away because of the tools that we are building in fintech. So for the government itself to survive, for them to be able to collect taxes, for them to be able to know what everyone is doing and just conduct their services well, they have to accept digital currencies because this technology is not going away.
How long do you think that will be until we can say, as Africans, this is a crypto exchange coming from the continent?
I think Africa will probably lead in digital financial inclusion. Look at what M-Pesa has done. And I think crypto is just taking us one step further because look at the number of unbanked people. Look at the cost of sending money to Africa. You know, we spend 2.2 trillion every year just on transactional costs. To solve all this problem, we must just move in that direction. So I'm looking at 2 to 3, maximum of 5 years. Because if you look at the Kenyan government, there's already a task force for blockchain and AI. They're trying to understand. In South Africa, there's already a working group for blockchain. And so I think it's just a matter of time before they can all accept. And governments like the New York State government, they're already even giving licenses to crypto businesses. So it's just a matter of time before all government are there, and I'm looking at 3 years maximum, and we'll be right in there.
That is Apollo Eric. He is the co-founder and CEO of Bitlipa, a digital wallet as well as a crypto exchange, just talking to us about his journey and where startups such as Bitlipa will be in the future to come. And he feels very confident in the next 3 to 5 years, governments on the African continent will have a better, softer attitude towards the exchange, the crypto exchanges rather. My name is Ziziki. Thank you so much for your time today here at BTech TV. We do appreciate also We'll be back on our social media platforms. For now, bye.